I think we're on.
Yep, we're good.
Hey guys, welcome. Welcome to the Virgin Authors. We are three friends bonded by our love of writing and struggling to navigate the publishing world. I'm Jana Vandelar and I'm a virgin author.
And I'm Mandy McGuire. Our friend Lissa is not with us today. She is on vacation, and so we're going to just proceed without her. But I am crazy excited to introduce our guest tonight. She is one of my new favorite authors that I just discovered her this year. And I'm letting Brenda know tonight that I want to be the president of her fan club. I've reached out to her person to see, like, do we have like a book club yet or a fan club yet? Like, I want to be your girl. And so we're going to chat about that a little bit tonight. But Brenda JANOWITZ is the author of 7 novels, including my favorite, which is The Liz Taylor Ring. Her novel, The Grace Kelly Dress, has been optioned for film by Hallmark, and we are definitely asking about that tonight. And her newest novel, this one here, let's see where I'm at. The AUDREY Hepburn Estate will be released in just 5 days. Is that right? 5? On April 18th. Brenda attended Cornell University and Hofstra Law School, where she was a member of the Law Review. Upon graduation, she worked for a law firm and did a federal clerkship for a U.S. Magistrate Judge for the Eastern District of New York. Welcome, Mrs. Smarty Pants.
Yeah, Carla. Let's watch what we say in this thing.
Don't watch what you say at all.
No, we're so honored to have you here, honestly. But hey, well, first of all, the Grace Kelly dress is getting optioned. We are talking about that. And it's just like such an incredible thing to all of us, any writer, any human being, to have your book optioned. It's like what I mean, kudos. And so we just want to know, like, where were you when you found out? Like, we're virgins, so how did you find out? Like, do you get a call? Like, I don't know, what do you do?
How did it happen?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. The process took so long that I'm like struggling to remember, but
did it?
I guess it was my film agent who called me, or was it my literary agent? Either Rich or Jess called me, and I guess because first, right, no, this is what happened. So first, Rich said Hallmark is interested, and I was, as writers, there's so much rejection, as you know, so you're always sort of mentally preparing yourself for the worst. So he was like, Hallmark's interested, and my husband was like, what? And I was like, don't get excited. That means and I've had books that I got meetings with various celebrities before, and I used to like Google them, and I was like, I'm going to be best friends with this person now. Nothing ever materialized. So when he said Hallmark was interested, I was like, oh, whatever. But then they made an offer, and I was sort of like, oh wait, they're really interested. They just made me an offer.
Wow.
And I got excited, but then we were negotiating and going back and forth, and that process took a really long time. So again, I was like, must protect fragile self.
Yeah.
Like, you know what, it might not happen, and that's okay. And my husband had already told some friends. He was like, wait, was I not supposed to do that? And I said, no, you were not supposed to do that.
I could not tell my husband. He's totally Gladys Kravitz, but okay. Yeah.
His friends were really excited about it, I have to say.
Yeah.
And then finally, we agreed to some terms, and I was like, okay, now it's happening. But then in the contract, there was some back and forth, and I was like, oh God, it's not happening. So it was just like this constant up and down and trying
to take about. Was it like a year? Was it like a year? Was it like a couple weeks? Or, I mean, was that the whole negotiation?
No, it was almost a year from time when they were like interested in making the offer till I signed the contract. And after I signed the contract, it didn't feel real. And I kept saying to my agent, well, my film agent and my literary agent, I'm like, can we announce this? Like, it'll, I need it to be real. Like, I need to announce it. And I don't want to mislead anybody. Yeah, she was like, we're announcing this. And my film agent's like, okay, great, go for it. And I think once we announced it, it really felt real. Once I signed the contract, I told, a bunch of my girlfriends, and I was like, shh, don't tell anyone. But now the whole world knows, and it's really exciting. And the most exciting part of getting an option from Hallmark is they supposedly make the majority of the films that they option.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've known authors who were optioned for
You're
10
saying-
years, they renewed year after year. And I
And
mean,
they
you
never
guys-
made.
Oh,
just
okay, I
haven't-
get what you're saying.
They
Yeah.
sort of get stuck in development hell.
Mhm.
And it's like 10 years later and they're just sort of like, what is happening with this thing? And even people, I've known people who've gotten the green light and nothing happened, but Hallmark moves really differently. They move really fast. And so
Oh,
I'm
good
super
then.
excited about that. So I have
Yeah.
much higher odds of actually seeing it happening.
Yeah.
And so that's like thrilling to no end.
It's so
And
exciting. Like that's a dream for all of us who are writing.
So when did you sign it? And then did they give you any time frame at all? Or when did you sign it? Like I should have Googled that.
yeah, no, I just signed it like a few weeks ago. It wasn't that long ago.
Wow.
So I think
So,
we
like,
want
kind of
to
interesting.
schedule a meeting to just sort of like get us all in the loop, and hopefully that's when I'll get more information.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Hallmark also moves really quickly. So I'm sort of like, just go for it. Let me know when you have a screenplay. Like,
That's
do it.
awesome.
And then I'm like hoping, I'm crossing fingers and toes that they'll let me do a visit to the set.
Yes.
Because I'm
Oh, a cameo walking through.
yeah, I'm like obsessed with Hallmark movies. I'm
Yeah.
obsessed with all the actors and actresses. I feel like I know them.
Yeah.
My girlfriend,
Camera.
yeah,
We
my
do.
best,
We feel like we know them.
yeah, my best friend keeps sending me pictures. She's like, "Well, this is the guy I like the most." I'm like, "Oh, should I tell them?" Like, my best friend says she likes this guy.
This should be the lead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's like, "I would like to meet this person, so just cast
Right.
him."
That's
Oh my
amazing.
God, that's so congratulations with all our hearts.
Yes.
We didn't mean to cry so much. I didn't know it was that new. That's really exciting,
Yeah,
but
super
It's
exciting.
really new. Yeah.
So,
I just want to
okay.
touch you. I'm touching your screen. Okay, that's
That's
pretty
okay.
cool.
So Brenda, so you're on here with the Virgin authors, right? So we are authors, just like our listeners, that were at all different stages in our publishing careers, right? Gianna has self-published her children's books, but she also writes fiction. Lissa and I are unpublished, but last year I secured a literary agent. And we attend conferences, we go, we all enter in contests, we're building our own community, we read for each other, we do all the things, right? Like all the stuff you're told you have to do.
Yeah.
So with 8 books now under your belt, can you tell us your story? Like how long have you been writing? And what are some of those up and downs to get you to this point where you have these successful books and potential movies coming?
Yeah. You know, when I first started, things were so different. It was like in the before times. My first book came out in 2007.
Okay.
And the industry has changed so dramatically since then. So it's
Yeah.
almost like hard for me to give advice at this stage because you don't want to listen to my story because it's very different.
I love it because I actually listened to you on Hannah's Instagram last night, and I don't mean to interrupt you again, but I loved the story and you know how you obtained an agent. That was a great story actually, and I think it still somewhat applies, but then you know the fairy dust, which I it was just really well. Okay, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, you know, I was a lawyer first. But I always wanted to write, but I didn't think it was for like people like me. That was just
Yeah.
like a dream that I could never hope to attain. And,
Yeah.
you know, I was an unhappy lawyer, and I guess I was like talking about writing quite a lot. Definitely to my best friend who's casting my movie, my best
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah.
So for my 30th birthday, she got a bunch of friends together and gave me a group gift, and that was to take a writing class, because that was one of my
Oh,
excuses. I
okay.
think when you're first starting out, it's really easy to like self-sabotage and have all these excuses why you can't write.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
was that the writing class was so expensive. And so they sent me to this writing class, and she said, you know, from now on, Tuesday nights are for writing.
All right.
And
Oh,
I love this class so much. Oh my God. I was so into this class. I took it so seriously. I did all the assignments. And in fact, I started writing my first novel when I was in that class.
Okay.
So it was inspiring and wonderful. And I met other writers, like
Yeah.
you're saying, you know, it is important to know other writers and to be in a writer's group.
Mhm.
And I think I said to myself at that time, I just want to see if I could finish a novel. Like that's the goal. We don't have to take it any further than that.
Right.
But I like to joke, I'm like this type A lawyer. So once I finished it, I was like, I should just get this published.
yeah.
Right.
Back
Just like
then,
that.
Yeah, just like, why not? I didn't know anything. I was like, how hard could it be? I didn't know anyone in the industry. I was like, it's fine.
The
So
hard part is writing, you think, but yeah, no.
Writing's the fun part, it turns
It's
out.
the fun part,
The
right?
hard part is the industry. But
Yeah.
you'll find that out much later.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had heard Meg Cabot talk about how she found an agent by getting this guidebook, and she went from A to Z and everyone said no. So she closed it and started over from A. And I was like, if it's good enough for Meg Cabot, it's good enough for me. So I got the guidebook. Because
Great
back then,
story.
back then, you needed a guidebook.
And they printed them. They were books.
Sounds old. Oh my
Yeah.
God. But this was 2006. The world was different.
Yes.
So I got the guidebook, and my first agent, her last name started with G. So I got from A to G. Got an agent. And again,
And that was with your first book, right? That you wrote in that class.
yeah, so that was my first
Amazing.
novel.
Okay.
It was called Scott on the Rocks, and it was the story of a girl who goes to her ex-boyfriend's wedding. I may have gone to an ex-boyfriend's wedding.
Yes.
So it was just like a fun, funny rom-com, and she sold it in a 2-book deal. But again, I knew nothing. I knew nothing about the industry. I didn't know how hard it was. And I wonder, like, if back then, if I knew what I know now, like, would I have even tried? Because it's just so
Right.
hard. And there
And
is,
discouraging.
yeah, and there's
Yeah.
just constant rejection. And even once you get the book published, it's like you have people on Amazon being like, this person's an idiot. This book is so dumb. One of my books was, I mean, a lot of my earlier books are definitely based on me, and they'd be like, this protagonist is an idiot. And I was, oh yeah, she's so dumb. What is that dumb? But you know,
I would be like, what? Look at my law degree.
oh, you know, it's funny because my first book, she was a lawyer, and people were like, lawyers don't talk like this. And I was like, but don't think.
Are you sure?
Like, a lawyer would never do this. And I was like, yeah, I definitely never did any of those things.
People are so judgy.
Yeah. Oh, people, you know, people feel really free on the internet to say just like whatever they want, whenever they want, in whatever tone they want. And so, you know, it's hard. So, you know, a lot of my story beginning, like I didn't know anything. And I think I thought that if you just work hard, you'll get what you want, because that's what I had experienced as a lawyer. Like if you study, you will pass the bar.
Right.
So I was like, if you write the book, you'll get published. But I now know that that's not true at all. I mean, it always frustrates me. This is what I was saying last night. Like it frustrates me when people are like, but if you work hard, it's like, no, like work hard, write the best book you can. It's like, well, I'm not trying to write a bad book, right? We're all writing the best book we can always.
Yeah.
There is this aspect of fairy dust. So, you know, you write a great book, you have a great agent, but you also need the magic. You need that fairy dust. And I don't think people understand that, but it's definitely a thing in these creative careers. It's not just working hard. It's not just producing a good product. I mean, how often do you read a book that's fantastic, but is getting like no press?
Yes.
So frequently I'm reading books and I'm like, this is so special and brilliant and wonderful, and why is no one else reading it?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what I liked when I was writing about books for Pop Sugar. I could sort of highlight books that I felt like weren't getting attention. Now I just tell all my friends and I'm hand selling these books, but you know, there's that aspect of fairy dust. And I feel like it can be discouraging when people are like, well, I worked hard and I got here. It's like, we're all working hard. No one thinks that. Like if you wrote a book, you're working hard.
Right. Well, and that's like with our kind of writing group, we're all working so hard and we're doing all the things you're supposed to do, like the contests and the conferences and the accountability groups and all the stuff. And it can be super discouraging because and it could be the opposite of what you're saying too. You can read a published book that's getting lots of press and we're like, well, that wasn't that amazing. Like my book doesn't suck. Like it's not a literary work of art, but it's not terrible. Like how come I can't get that next step or whatever?
Absolutely. I mean, that happens to me so frequently, but then I just text with my friends about it.
Yeah.
And I always joke, like, remember when Bad Art Friend came out and those texts were made public? We're always like, if our texts become public, we're always talking about those books. And I'm like, this wasn't that special. And I'm dead meat if anyone sees my text.
I do think I mean we were talking last night about the fairy dust, and I do think that there's still some elements. Maybe I'm just like a little Cinderella. I'm like, it'll happen. But I'm like the one that's probably been in it longer than all of us. But I actually just did my newspaper column book, and it's this giant book that my daughter gave me, and you can put all your columns in there, and it's like this thick book. Sorry for cussing. And I was going through, I'm like, God, I've been published like over and over like that. But so then I just told Mandy last night that I was like, God, you can hit some real slumps. And it's what is so great about these kind of groups, is that you can support each other and, talk about, there's another contest, get it out there, and we win and we all celebrate each other. And, it's really exciting. And I do think, if nothing else, the groups are great camaraderie, which wasn't really necessarily there in the past, so there's some good with the good, with this horrible day-to-day thing now, because it's so competitive and it's a whole different world in the publishing. But there is some really good stuff, and I do think it still comes to you believing in yourself. That's the real very best.
Yeah.
Come on, tell me that, Brenda.
But it's great to hear other people's stories, because there was a very successful author that I love her books and I read, and I heard her talk about how many times she had submitted to an agent before she got an agent, and then that agent submitted like once or twice, and then they got it picked up, and she had only submitted 6 times, but she made it sound like that was a lot of submissions. And I'm like, 6 times like in a day? Do you mean like 6 times for that book? Like, what do you mean? Like, I have, when we talked on here, I have my 3rd book, I have huge numbers. I submitted to 85 agents, and I finally got my agent, but it wasn't from my submissions. It was from a contest entry. So my submissions did nothing. And so it's great to hear everyone's stories in the community, because they're literally everyone's is different.
Before we get too late into it, first of all, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing JANOWITZ is on, and they're just saying how interesting it was about the lawyer, how they're saying that, you don't know how a lawyer speaks, and they commented on it. And it's so funny because it's true. And I did write a book about a flight attendant, and I have had that from agents. They're like, this isn't at all how that would work. And I'm like, well, it actually happened. So back off. But anyway,
so Brenda, we'd love it if after the show you could go on as well and say hello to some of the people who are commenting. That would be great.
I don't think we have a lot right now, but also before the Audrey Hepburn, I'm so bummed that I didn't get the pre-copy. At least Mandy got it. And so but the other books, I mean, so you've done the Grace Kelly dress, right? And the
Liz Taylor ring.
So I don't know, how come I haven't, because all those people are like huge in my head, so I have to read it, because I loved it. I want to hear how you tie it all in, like we were saying. But the Audrey Hepburn book, it's April 18th, right?
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about the story?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's heavily inspired by the Audrey Hepburn film Sabrina, which is a favorite of mine.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah, it's the story of a woman who goes back to the house where she grew up once she learns that it's set to be demolished. And going back to the house brings 2 men from her past back into her life. And it sort of forces her to re-examine everything she sort of thought about her past. And it makes her think about where, the life she's living now. It is really romantic. It's got a love triangle, and it's also a little mysterious. It's got a little mystery aspect to it, but it's ultimately a story about the meaning of home, the true meaning of home. And one of the best bits of research that I learned about Audrey Hepburn was that she was this huge homebody, and she loved her home. Sure, she loved like living the fabulous lifestyle, but what she really loved was being home with her friends and her family. And that really informs the theme of the book.
I love that. And Mandy was saying in the back of the book, you have how it all ties in, just generally just a little snippets about something like that, how she's a foodie, which I heard on last night on the Hannah thing, that she's a big foodie, which who would think, this little skinny thing. And so you made the main character a chef, right?
Exactly, right. So at the end of the book, I have just a little section with Easter eggs, and I started it with the Liz Taylor ring, because I remember when I was editing the book, Jillian Cantor was helping me edit, And she was like, well, this scene, we were talking about like one scene in particular. And she was like, well, why does it have to be X? And I was like, oh, well, that's because, and whatever the factoid about Elizabeth Taylor's life is, I was like, well, it was inspired by this. And she was like, are you writing this stuff down? How are you going to remember it for tour? And I was like, yeah, how am I going to remember it? Like, you should start writing it down now so that when people ask you, because with the dinner party, by the time I toured, I like couldn't remember a lot of the things I had infused in the book. And people were like, did you do this on purpose? And I was like, I don't know, did I?
Oh,
I
gosh,
think
yeah.
so.
Like, you spend so long writing the book and then you spend so long touring it, but while you're touring, you're writing your next book.
Right,
So
you're in a whole
sometimes it's
different-
like hard to, it's hard to remember
Different
like the little
headspace.
thing that inspired you. So for the Liz Taylor ring, I made a list and then I was like, I should put this in the book. People would love it. And originally we were just going to put it in the ARC. Linda Cohen-Loigman was like, people love this in the advanced copy. I was like, great. But then I had done so much work doing it. I was like, put it in the book. So I did it again for Audrey. And it's fun to sort of like remember all these Easter eggs, like how you were inspired by different things and how you infused it into the scene. So little things like learning that Audrey Hepburn loved to cook and she ate chocolate every day. She loved pasta with red sauce. That really informed my choice to make Emma, the protagonist, a chef. So little things like that. So if you are big
fascinating. I love
if
that.
you're a huge Audrey fan, you'll recognize it and you'll know it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. If you don't know anything about it, she's just a chef and you know, that's fun too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, to
No,
me,
this
this,
I'm so excited to read it. So
this book really kind of read like even a historical fiction to me. And it's really obvious that you had done significant research around World War II, the Holocaust, Audrey Hepburn as in her young life as part of that Dutch resistance. Can you talk about your research, and was it just your love for Audrey and Elizabeth Taylor and Grace Kelly? Like, what is your research project?
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always start with the biographies first to get a sense of the Hollywood icon's like entire life. So, but I always think when I start like, oh, I've been obsessed with this person my whole life. I know everything. And then I start researching and it's like, oh no, I know nothing. It turns out I know nothing. So for Audrey, I felt like I knew so much about her, but again, knew nothing. Starting with learning that in her childhood, she survived Nazi occupation in Holland for 5 years when she was a kid.
Ugh.
Never heard this before. I had no idea. And I'm a Jewish woman. I know quite a lot about the Holocaust. I've studied the Holocaust before. So to learn something like that I never knew was shocking to me.
Yeah.
And I became sort of like obsessed with it. And as you know, you always have to write about what you're obsessed with because you sort of like live with the material for so long.
Sure. Yeah.
You've got to be obsessed with what you're working with. So once I got that little tidbit, I knew I sort of had to explore, and I knew it was going to have to be part of the book. So in the novel, it's dual timelines. And instead of like in the Grace Kelly dress, it was 3 different women in 3 different timelines. And then in the Liz Taylor ring, it was the kids in one timeline and the parents' love affair in the second timeline. And so for Audrey, I wanted to mix it up a little. So the 2 timelines it's actually the same characters. So it's the characters as adults and them as children and teens. And our protagonist, Emma, when she's a teen, she discovers a Nazi artifact. And so that's sort of how I worked it into the narrative. And I don't want to say more because I don't want to spoil anything.
I'm right. It's like a
No
huge,
fun.
like extra thing in there that you, again, who would even think with this tie-in again with Audrey Hepburn herself, but it's fiction, people.
Yeah.
No, right. It's not biographical fiction. It's not about Audrey Hepburn. So these characters are just inspired by her and her life. But once I learned that she had survived Nazi occupation in Holland, I needed to know more. And all of the biographies do touch on it, but I ended up buying Dutch Girl by Robert Mattson, which is only about this period of her life. He did a foreword with her son, Luca Doty. And they really just explored together and researched together and reached out to people and found these old documents. And I was completely blown away. And since then, I've been lucky enough to get in touch with Robert Mattson, and he gave me a blurb for the book. And he sort of gave it, I had him like go over the author's note because so many of the facts that I'm talking about are things that I learned from his book. So it was really important to me that he sort of take a look at it, make sure I hadn't misunderstood anything.
Oh,
'Cause,
good. Yeah.
you know, it's a lot and it's heavy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so all of that stuff sort of inspired me, and I
And
sort
then
of,
she did a whole big thing with, oh God, I can't think of the aid that she dedicated her life to just because of her, UNICEF, correct.
UNICEF.
Well, correct.
Yeah.
Good
yeah,
job.
she really
Yeah.
yeah. So the predecessor to UNICEF, UNRWA, came in and gave them much needed medical supplies and food after the war, and she felt that they had saved her life. So
Yeah.
it's fascinating to me. It's like she never forgot that, and later in life she dedicated herself to UNICEF.
But that's what makes this whole book even more special. And we're running out of time. I can't believe it. And I just, when I didn't mean to, but I pre-ordered.
Oh, thank you.
So everybody, you can pre-order the book. It's coming out on April 18th again. But what an incredible writer. And obviously your other two books I've got to get. I just wanted to do it before I forgot. You know how it's like, but yeah, I mean, I'm just so bummed that I haven't had it. Mandy's really lucky because she got the one arc copy.
Well, so my favorite of I've only read the most recent ones, and my favorite was the Liz Taylor Ring. But what I want people to kind of hear about why I like your books is, to me, they're fast-paced. They have lots of twists and turns. I mean, the Liz Taylor Ring was my first, and I would read it at work, like on my lunch hour. If I only had like 5-10 minutes, I just, scarf something, and you could actually read a couple chapters because it's just very fast. It's very quick. There's, some of the chapters are really short, and there's lots of twists and turns. And I just really love that. And you can read that on a beach, or you can, read it in the carpool line, whatever you're doing. But they have such rich characters and like family dynamics that I'm always drawn to those. And this one just seemed, it had definitely deeper content. And I just wondered, like, was that intentional, or did that just come from your research and, your loving of Audrey and how this turned out, or was that intentional with you? Because the other books didn't touch on such deep issues.
Yeah, I mean, that was the research. The research sort of took me there.
Nice.
In terms of the family dynamics, I had done 2 books already. Actually, it's really 3 about families. And you're always trying to make it, like Ellen Hildebrand had this great thing she said something to the effect of, like, I'm now going to write the same exact book for you, but totally different. Because I think you make a promise to your readers, like if they know the type of book you're writing. So I wanted it to be similar to the Grace Kelly Dress and the Liz Taylor Ring, but slightly different. So I decided, and I was really interested in this aspect of like friends becoming family.
Yeah.
So instead of having, I mean, there are family dynamics because there are the main characters and their parents,
right?
But the love triangle, these are friends who are kind of like family. And so that was something I wanted to explore. So I definitely made it a little different in that way.
Yeah.
So, but I still think it's a family drama because there's so much tension between the characters and their parents and stuff. But at its heart, it's really a love triangle.
Yeah. It's lovely.
I just, one of our comments was, oh, you can pre-order. So I'm filling that in. I'm totally fascinated by you, but so just go on Amazon and look up Brenda JANOWITZ or the Audrey Hepburn Estate, and it just really quick. I just
on bookshop.org. There's all kinds of places.
Yeah.
So Brenda, thank you for coming on our show. It was so wonderful to finally meet you. I'm such a huge fan, and I just reached out and said, hey, can we grab her? How do we make it work? And I'm so thankful. So can you tell our listeners, like, tell us a little bit more about your books and where they can find them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I always like to say my books are everywhere books are sold. So,
I know, right?
I want to say that someday.
I know, me too. I'm excited just saying you can find Brenda JANOWITZ's book anywhere. I actually buy them. So
thank you so much. Yeah, so it's Amazon, Bookshop, barnesandnoble.com, as well as all your favorite indie bookstores. And actually right now we're doing a pre-order campaign with some of my favorite indies. And if you pre-order it, not only do you get the book, but you get like this limited edition keychain.
Oh, I hope I get it.
Yeah. So
if I ordered it through Amazon, will I get that?
No.
No.
we'll have to
Dang
figure
it.
something
I'm
out.
You
canceling
can
the order
cancel
now.
that order and go order from the other
I
place.
can get a couple of your books.
Yeah.
So.
And, well, so if you go on my Instagram page, it's about 10 different bookstores. And actually,
Cool.
one of the managers already wrote to me that they're already promised to people.
Well,
He's like, do I only
Yeah.
have 10 keychains? And I was like,
Oh.
no, I will send you 10 more. And so
So cool.
that's been really fun and exciting.
I
mean, it
love
is-
that. Yeah,
it's pretty
supported
wild
the
supplies
indie.
labs. And then I'm going to try to bring any leftover keychains with me on tour. So if people meet me on tour Monday night, I will be at Thunder Road Books in New Jersey. Tuesday
good.
night, I'll be at the Bookmark Shop in Brooklyn. Wednesday night, RJ Julia in Connecticut. Thursday, I'm online with A Mighty Blaze. And then Friday, I am at Litchfield Books in South Carolina. And then
Wow, you're already moving.
yeah. Then the following week, I'm at Theodore's Books on Long Island. And then the week after that, I'm joining Brenda Novak's tour, her travel
Yay.
bookstore.
Wow, that's awesome.
And yeah, I'll be at the Lewes Library with her, and that's sponsored by Browse About Books. So lots of travel, lots of excitement, and whatever swag I have left over, I will try to bring. My best friend was like the one who wants to cast the Hallmark movie. She's like,
Yeah.
how do I get this bookmark?
I can relate to her.
One for you. She was like,
That's
are you
awesome.
giving me one?
Heck, she's casting everybody for you. So,
That's very cool.
She's got work to do, you know.
well,
Right.
thank you so much, Brenda. I mean, I've completely fallen in love with you, as you can tell. I'm like interrupting, buying things. But join you guys, everybody that's listening. Thank you for being with us, and the future people that are joining us. Thank you. Please join the Virgin Authors here on Facebook Live on the third Thursday of every month, and for our special episodes featuring the authors from the new publishing house, Zibby Books. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great night, you guys. And Brenda, again, heartfelt thank you.
Thank
I
you.
can't wait to read it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.